Am I the idiot for making my girlfriend leave the country? This is my first time posting on Reddit, so forgive any errors or if the format is weird. I also can't give too many details as my girlfriend and a lot of close friends are avid Redditors. I, male 28, have been dating my girlfriend, female 27, for 5 years. We met in college where she was an international student. She started working after graduating while I am currently doing a master's. Her company was sponsoring her visa until they got bought out and she got laid off. She was given a limited time to find a new employer to sponsor her a new visa and it really stressed her out. She was applying to jobs every day and did a lot of interviews but unfortunately wasn't able to get an offer. She really wanted to stay since she loves the place and I would still be here in the country. While I was out with a buddy, he suggested that I sponsor her visa since we have been in a relationship for quite some time. I love her and I didn't want to see her so stressed out. I told her about the idea. She was hesitant at first. She said she didn't want me to think that she was with me so I could be her way to a permanent residence, citizenship to the country. I wanted her to stay and I wanted to do it. We consulted an immigration consultant and decided to do the paperwork on our own. She was the one who mostly looked into the stuff we needed to prepare. She still applied for jobs but not as urgently as she used to. It took a while since we never really had anything joint. We lived together and just split the bills on our own. She had saved up enough to be okay for a while. I had to fill out some paperwork to be her sponsor and I felt uneasy about it. I did want her to stay but it felt like it was too much. Eventually, she was done with her part and all that was left was mine. I finally told her that I didn't want to go through with it. She was very upset and asked why. I told her that I suggested the idea because I didn't want to see her stressed out all the time, and that I eventually realized that I shouldn't have to be responsible for her. We had a long talk where I told her that I still want to be in a relationship with her but I just don't want to be forced to be responsible for her. She said she felt very hurt by what I said. Things changed and she didn't really talk to me after. She kept applying for jobs and attending interviews but eventually her visa expired. Before she left, I told her I love her and that I would really want her to come back. However, she told me that she sees me differently after the things I told her. It has been a few weeks since she left. I miss her cooking, her presence, and being able to spend time with her. I still want a future with her. However, our close friends have been telling me that I was an idiot. I disagree and I think they are biased. So, here I am asking what Reddit thinks. Am I the idiot? Edit. I have read through a lot of comments and everyone seems to think I'm the here. To those asking what my responsibilities would be, I would have to be financially responsible for her for 3 years. If she gets any government assistance or social welfare, I would have to pay it back. I also can't sponsor anyone else until 3 years have passed. Also, I listed what I missed about her in no particular order. I listed that I miss her cooking first but it doesn't mean I don't miss her. To the people who said I'm probably an immigrant too, what does it have to do with anything? My parents moved to where we are now so here I am. I still stand by what I said. No one I know has to do anything like this. It just doesn't feel normal. I would want to eventually have a home with her, but I don't think anyone should have to be responsible for another person's decisions or their circumstances. It's just gaslighting if you convince someone that they should be. I don't know if anyone will see this edit since it has been a few days. I have updates so I'll probably do a separate post about it when I have time. Comments before the update. You're the idiot. You miss your bangmaid. I wonder how much she sacrificed for you over the past 5 years. She wasted 5 years of her life on you, but at least she finally sees you for who you are. You're the idiot. You suggested this whole process. She was reluctant and told you exactly the stuff why you later chickened out. But you insisted on going through with it. But when it came to deliver your part you chickened out. You keep saying that you want a future with her but when it came to take the necessary steps to make that happen you didn't. No wonder that she realized that building a future with you might not be the best of ideas. How could she if she can't rely on you? You've been with her for 5 years. How much more time do you think you'll need to realize if you're willing to commit to her and your relationship? But I guess that ship has sailed. If you had wanted to be with her you should have made up your mind months ago. Update. I couldn't reply to everyone who commented on my last post, and there were many people who DM'd me including asking for an update. The general consensus was that I am the idiot. I will just address a lot of the things here including what happened after my first post. I talked to her over the weekend. She didn't have time to sell her car before leaving so she contacted me saying she did some paperwork to transfer the car to me. I do understand that she felt hurt, so I told her that I would buy a plane ticket to go see her. She had never once gone back to her home country after moving away, so I'd never visited her home country. I wanted to show that I am very serious about her and that I am still committed, so I wanted to fly over to visit and talk things out. She immediately turned me down, saying that flight tickets are expensive and that I still have work. I begged her to let me, and she eventually said that she couldn't forget the stuff that happened, and that she couldn't come back from it. I explained my side again and that while I understand that she is hurt, I shouldn't be forced to take responsibility for her, and that I hoped she would be understanding of that. The conversation was long. She said she could never trust me again. She said I never saw a future with her from the start, and that I abandoned her. She said it wasn't just about the sponsorship, but it played a big part in it. In the end, she told me that she still loved me, but she didn't think we should be together. To clarify a couple of things, 1. why I didn't want to go through with sponsoring her. I would have to be financially responsible for her for 3 years. If she gets any government assistance or social welfare, I would have to pay it back. I also can't sponsor anyone else until 3 years have passed. 2. Even though I listed that I missed her cooking first, it doesn't mean that that was the first thing I missed about her. I was just listing it out without thinking about a particular order, and yes, I did miss her terribly. 3. To those who commented and messaged me saying that I am an immigrant, I don't know what that has to do with anything. My parents moved to where I am now, so yeah. 4. Yes, no one I know has to do anything like this. No one I know has to make the decision of whether or not to sponsor a visa. I don't think it's fair for anyone to have to take on this much responsibility, and saying that they should feel like gaslighting. Relationships shouldn't be this hard, and having to do something like that doesn't feel normal. For those of you who called me an idiot, how many of you actually have to make a decision like I did? How many of you would actually go through with sponsoring a partner's visa? You're the idiot. You kept going on about how you shouldn't be forced to take responsibility for her, but wasn't it your choice to sponsor her in the first place? The fact that you kept emphasizing on this part after immediately pushing away responsibility that you decided to carry in the first place still makes you an idiot. It's one thing to not have the financial ability to help your partner. It's another to betray her trust and still continuously tell her that you shouldn't be forced to do this. What the flip? It was your decision in the first place, and you backed out super quickly in the most idiot way possible. You're the idiot. You seem to be missing the point that you gave her false security that everything will be fine, and then you took that away from her so last minute that she had no other option but to leave. You are saying it is unfair for you to bear such responsibility, but you are the one who told her you would and obviously did not research it enough before offering it. Of course, she isn't going to trust you or consider you her partner. I am confused how you cannot see why you have been an idiot. Was it wrong to make her leave the country? Let me know in the comments. Am I the idiot for threatening to evict my estranged dad and his family from the house they currently live in? My parents divorced when I was 10 because dad quit his job and refused to work so he could gamble and drink all day. Our country has crappy laws about child support, so mom had to support my sister and me on her own. Growing up, I tried reconnecting with my dad, but it felt like all effort to reconcile was from me. So I eventually gave up and minimized contact. I kept in touch with dad's side of the family, his siblings and my cousins. I have a good relationship with them. Fast forward to now, my sister and I are living comfortable lives. Our parents were married. My mom married a nice man and they live overseas. 5 years ago, dad married a girl who's the same age as my younger sister. She was horrible. Whenever my sister would reach out to our dad, she'd get pissed and accuse my sister of trying to steal him. They have a son and I've been nice to him. But because our dad's wife continued her rotten streak, my sister and I decided to cut ties with them. Dad's mom died last year. A few months ago, my aunt, dad's older sister, who's in charge of their parents' assets, called to tell us about our grandmother's will. Our grandfather is also dead BTW. All our grandparents' assets have been divided among grandkids, and I got my grandparents' house, the house where my father and his family live. Since I live miles away from the said house and have no plans of moving there, my aunt suggested I sell it and keep the money for myself. My aunt was pretty insistent that I sell the house because she said it's what my grandmother would want. My dad neglected her during the last years of her life and put her in a home. He also apparently sold her burial lot to buy drugs, so I agreed to sell the house since it's my inheritance after all. I haven't sold the house yet, but I called my dad to tell him about it so they can start looking for a house. I wanted to give him a heads up and told him they can stay as long as I don't have a buyer yet. My dad was obviously not pleased, but he didn't argue. Meanwhile, his wife got angry and called to scream at me, saying I was being selfish and that I didn't need the house. She let slip that her parents and siblings also live there, so basically freeloading off it. She tried to make me feel guilty because now they have to rent. I ignored her. Then she went on harassing me via text and called me names. At this point, I got pissed, so I told her that if she doesn't stop harassing me, I will have them evicted ASAP even if no one is buying the house yet. My dad found out and he told me I was an idiot to his wife. His siblings found out and they had my back. They said that his wife was never nice to them, and apparently, she's the one who persuaded my dad to remove my grandmother from her own house and put her in an elderly home so her own family can move in. Am I the idiot? Comments before the update. Not the idiot. First of all, best to get a lawyer and let any and all future contact go through them. Second, don't let them guilt trip or persuade you. There is the other option that maybe you keep the house and rent it out to them, but I doubt they'll pay you rent, and it will probably be a lot of work and trouble. Not to mention the condition the house might be in should they leave in a few years. Not the idiot. You have not done anything wrong, and it was nice of you to let your dad know in person. I would agree. Evict them immediately, and I would suggest having it professionally repaired and cleaned before selling. I would imagine it might be in a bad state. Update. The past week was exhausting, both physically and mentally, but here is an update. Following most of the advice here, I decided to have them evicted as soon as I could. A couple of days after my post, I flew to my parents' hometown, where the house was. I decided to stay for a week. I asked my best friend for moral support, so he flew in the next day. My aunt was able to get me in touch with her lawyer there, who gave me the papers I needed to establish ownership of the house. She also got me in touch with the local police. My aunt is out of the country, so she couldn't be there. In my country, there are laws protecting squatters and they can actually dispute being evicted. So I spoke to the cops and asked for help in case things get ugly. It's a small town where people know everybody. They know how much of an all my dad was, and my grandma was highly respected in our town because she used to be an educator. It didn't take a lot of convincing for them to agree to help. I contacted the old caretaker of the house, whom my dad fired. I asked her to accompany me. I also did some digging for information. Apparently, the wife and her family have a house, but mine was way bigger and nicer. 2 days after I flew in, I went to the house with my best friend, the caretaker, and a couple of cops to give my dad and the freeloaders a 3-day notice. As expected, Dad's wife made a scene and became hysterical because they'd be homeless. Called me heartless, ungrateful, cruel, etc. My dad was passive. He acted the same when my mom kicked him out, didn't argue but also never admitted his faults. He said he wouldn't wait for 3 days and would leave the next day. He told me that I was an ungrateful daughter and that I would get my karma. A lot of people here advised me to make sure they wouldn't steal stuff, but I honestly don't care about the stuff. I told them they can take what they need, except for a few pieces of furniture, the hardwood and antique ones that Grandma loved. It would make cleaning up easier. Come eviction day, I didn't speak to them. I just watched as they hauled their stuff onto a truck. Paid the caretaker to clean the house in the next few days and told her she can have whatever she wanted from the house. Grandma would have approved. Had the locks changed, installed extra locks, chained the gates, cut contact with my dad and his wife. Next step, the selling. I'm planning to sell it below market value just to get it over with, and that's that. I still have a lot to do in terms of selling the house, but at least the drama is over. I'm tired but relieved. Thank you to everyone here who gave me advice. Not the idiot. Glad to hear this went smoothly for you, and you did the right thing. My sympathies to you. The way he treated his own mother is absolutely disgusting. I get that some elderly people really do need the round-the-clock care that a home can provide. But how out of it could she have been? She clearly knew what she was doing when she gave you the house. Not the idiot. Your dad sounds like my dad. Decides he doesn't need to wait the 3 days and says they'll leave the next day, as if it makes him the one in charge. Then goes on to try and make you feel guilty in the same breath. Which is it, Dad? Are you stubbornly going to leave early, or this passive-aggressive begging? Neither one helps you keep your pride low. Does the father deserve to get evicted? Let me know in the comments. Am I the idiot for trying to help my sister-in-law? Throw away because my daughter is here. Why? Female 60, daughter 33, female, and her husband 39, male, have been married for almost 9 years and were together for 5 years before that. We had weekly Sunday night dinners together and took family vacations. He liked us and we loved him. A month after their wedding, they moved over 700 miles away and we were limited to infrequent holiday visits when my husband and I would have a Monday off from work. When my daughter was pregnant with their first child, I hated that I had to miss helping her through everything because my sister-in-law didn't know how to handle my daughter being less than on top of her game because she ran their household. I was with them for the birth and my husband drove in to help them move into their new house. We were happy to be there for their first step into this new chapter of their life. Before we left, I wrote my sister-in-law a note with a plea to help my daughter more and some tips for a new father. My daughter confided that he was less than pleased that I didn't think he could figure things out on his own without my help. Years passed and they finally moved back to our home state, where day trips to visit were possible. Our second grandchild was born and sister-in-law decided to be a stay-at-home dad. My daughter was working a menial tech support job with as much overtime as she could handle because he'd been laid off and refused to consider a profession outside of what he'd been doing for the last 20 years to support their family. We came to realize that his definition of SAHD meant putting the oldest on the school bus, putting the toddler in a high chair and aiming it at the TV while he went back to sleep or played computer games until my daughter came home to take over. No housework was done and more than once they fought because he thought his wife should be doing it. She did not agree. When I came to babysit one weekend, I wanted to help get her out from under the mountain of housework that wasn't being done while she was working and found bank statements. They've never had a joint account. The little bit that my sister-in-law was making from a side gig was being spent at the liquor store and, based on the timestamps of the charges, he was leaving at least one kid alone to get his fix. I worried about my daughter and the safety of my grandchildren, but I knew better now than confronting my sister-in-law directly. Instead, I contacted his parents and told them what I'd learned and asked for help in getting their son to straighten up. Rather than help me, they called their son and inflamed our conversation. That night my daughter called me and asked how dare I go through their mail, contact her in-laws, and accuse her husband of being an alcoholic and neglectful parent. I tried to point out that she doesn't know what goes on at their house while she's working so many hours, which didn't help. Now she barely talks to me when we used to have daily phone conversations. I feel I was justified. Would I be the idiot? Comments before the update. You're the idiot votes to heart and called my daughter Abby. I apologized for stepping over previously unknown boundaries and from that point on, I would wait for her to ask me for help than try to step in unsolicited. Things were still chilly, but warming from her, but her husband refused to speak to me, much less occupy the same room. I didn't try to change his mind. I just wanted to be in a position to help my daughter and grandsons. As overworked and distracted as she was, those boys are Abby's life and she'd lay her life down before letting them be hurt. I was given permission to have the boys for a weekend to give the grown-ups some alone adult time. The rest I've heard from Abby. She decided to treat them to a dinner out since she had some unexpected overtime pay and wanted to eat something that didn't come out of the freezer. While at the restaurant, in the bar waiting for a table, he immediately started drinking. He didn't stop until she mentioned that she didn't have the money for a binge, just a decent dinner. He didn't like that and sulked while Abby tried to make the most of their free night. After leaving, he asked why she was in a mood. Floodgates opened and she told him every grievance and frustration she'd had since the baby had been born almost 3 years ago. For the second time in a month, he told her, "If you're so fricking unhappy, just leave. Get the frick out." The first time he said that, she just drove away until it was bedtime for the boys. This time, she packed a week's worth of clothes and came here, telling me and her father everything. This isn't the first time they've had to take a break, but she says she's not going back this time. School's out for the summer and her father and I are happy to watch the boys for her while she is commuting to work, but she's considering quitting that job to get something closer to here. Her soon-to-be ex has only come out of his fog to request time with the boys once. He is having to move in with his parents as Abby told him that she flat out refuses to pay more rent for a place she hated and never wanted to live in the first place. He and his parents will have the boys for 3 weeks this summer when everyone's plans get finalized. They're heading toward divorce and I'm not sad over it now. Even Abby says that the man she's separating from isn't the man she married. Only place to go from here is onward and upward, not the idiot. What matters is that Abby got out of a miserable marriage to an alcoholic who was neglecting their kids. And Abby knows that her parents always have her back and that she can do this and navigate her divorce with your support. It's best to continue with what you're doing, supporting Abby and your grandkids and giving advice when Abby asks, but letting Abby handle her ex and divorce, not the idiot. Make sure to have a family law attorney on hand before you guys let the kids go to son-in-law and his parents' house for 3 weeks this summer. I wouldn't put it past them to try to do some shady custodial shit. Make sure your daughter's custodial rights are protected, or at the very least, that you've gotten the ball rolling to do that. Document everything, especially those liquor store receipts that corroborate dad's negligence leaving the kids alone while he went to get booze. Glad your daughter is finally finding her way out of a toxic relationship. Do you think she is an idiot? Let me know in the comments. Am I the idiot for wearing my first gen sash against my dad's wife's wishes? Hi all, long-time lurker but first-time poster. I, 27, I'm graduating from law school next weekend. As a backstory, my parents are divorced and remarried. Things with my father's wife Kelly have always been tense. They got married when I was 16 and the long and the short of it is that I ended up moving back in with my mom due to her. Bluntly, Kelly is also someone who is very hard to like. She's abrasive and quite rude at times. We have never gotten along but I have for the last 8 years tried harder to be nicer to her for the sake of my father. I went to law school 3 years ago and, at the time, Kelly was not very supportive of my decision and has commented on the fact that she didn't think I would actually see it through. Well, now I'm graduating. I have a great job. I'm really proud of myself because I really feel like I got here on my own hard work. Kelly has never introduced me to anyone nor assisted with my work. In fairness, I also in no way expected her to. Kelly used to be a lawyer. She is not currently, but it's not really anything we have discussed due to not being close in the first place. Now that I am graduating, my law school gave the first-gen law students sashes to wear. My father called me today and I asked that I not wear this sash because Kelly is offended by it. She thinks that I do not consider her family and I am also therefore not a first-generation lawyer. I got frustrated and told my dad that they're both welcome to not come if it offends her so much because I am wearing my Gen 1 sash. My dad got upset as well and essentially said that it's not a big deal to not wear the sash and my sash is invalid due to Kelly being his wife, and thus my stepmother. We ended the phone call on a bad note. Am I the idiot for refusing to not wear my sash for Kelly? I have tried to be diplomatic with Kelly, and I worry this may be the wrong hill to die on. I understand that it's just one graduation, and I wonder if I'm making a big deal out of nothing. On the other hand, I'm really proud of myself. No one else in my family is a lawyer and I will be the first. So Reddit, am I the idiot? Comments before the update. Not the idiot. She sounds like an insecure and controlling shrew. Why would she possibly care about your sash? She's making your graduation about herself, and your dad is feeding right into it. She needs to get over herself, and your dad needs to get his priorities straight. Not the idiot. She's not your mother, so you definitely are a first gen. Wear the sash proudly. She sounds horrible. BTW. Explain that had she ever acted like a mother, i.e. supportive life cheerleader, you might have seen the issue differently, but she didn't so you don't. Congratulations. Update. First, thank you to everyone who replied to my original post. I don't understand what these awards are. I've been a Reddit lurker, but this is my first account so I'm not really sure what any of it means, but thank you. I genuinely thought only like 4 people would respond and tell me I'm being a petty so this was surprising. Second, I want to clarify 2 points. 1. things with my dad are complicated. Obviously, there's a lot of background I can't all fit here. I love him, but we are not as close as we once were. He has been very supportive of my education. He has also struggled with expressing that he is proud of me. Suffice it to say, I got very choked up at internet strangers telling me they are proud. 2. It's actually a stole, not a sash. My mistake. Lastly, my update. I texted my dad after our call and told him that I was sorry for becoming frustrated, but I would still wear the sash, and meant no offense by it. He apologized to me over text as well. I went out to dinner with my father, Kelly, and paternal grandmother on the night before graduation. It was the typical awkward time. We went to Kelly's favorite restaurant, of course. Dad asked privately before dinner that I not confront Kelly, so I did not. I reiterated to him that I thought this conflict was ridiculous and that I was disappointed he chose to act this way. He apologized again and agreed. He hinted that there was some other deeper issue happening between him and his wife. I said that was not my business and they should work through it, rather than take it out on others. We left it at that. On my day off, I wore my sash, stole. It was a very nice graduation. Lots of photos with my family. Lots of cheering. Kelly was tense and unpleasant, as usual, but I smiled and ignored it. I had a lovely time. I also wrote Kelly a note that I gave her as I left. I told her in the note that it was not my intention to hurt her feelings, but also my school is recognizing that I do not come from parents who are lawyers to celebrate my work. I also said that people change all the time and that our relationship to one another could change too with time and effort on both sides. I might be the odd now, because frankly my note feels disingenuous since I have no real intention of being friendly with her. Keep your enemies close. Alternatively, litigation taught me that creating a written record is important. Things are gonna be tough with my dad for a while too. We had talked about taking a trip together after I took the bar, and I do not want to go with him anymore. I have a strong feeling Kelly will never mention the note to me nor my father. I mostly now just feel sad and tired, but I'm also ready for the next chapter of my life. Thank you again to everyone, not the idiot. I'm glad you had a peaceful celebration. I don't think the note is disingenuous. Notes like that, platitudes like that, they are like social grease to reduce friction in tense relationships. It's no big deal as long as you are generally respectful, not a pushover, just respectful as you would be towards any stranger or acquaintance. What more can be reasonably asked of you? Not the idiot. Congratulations and good luck on your bar exam. You are 100% right. Your father's issues with Kelly are not your issue and they need to resolve it between themselves. I personally think your dad needed to grow a backbone and stand up for you, but you did an excellent job doing it for yourself and with such grace. For now, focus on your own future and worry about others later. Each day it will get a bit easier to handle, and I hope one day you find peace. Should they have listened to their father? Let me know in the comments. Am I the idiot for telling my parents that I hate them and will be sleeping at a friend's for the next few days? So as a teenager I was quite badly abused by a family friend. He was my age and he did all the abuse at school. I kept it a secret until a few days ago when I decided to tell my mom and dad about the abuse. All was okay until my mom told me her and dad knew about the abuse. Now that would have been fine if dad wasn't constantly bringing him to the house and letting my abuser work for him. So they were knowingly letting my abuser get close to me. I got super pissed, told them I freaking hated them, packed up all my poop and am currently staying with a friend until I can get a bus back down to my place. My parents have been blowing up my phone trying to apologize, explain why they did what they did. But I have not answered as I don't know what to say. Honestly, part of me doesn't want to see them again, but the other part of me feels like an idiot for not letting them explain why. Am I the idiot? Comments before the update. Not the idiot. If they knew about the abuse and kept your abuser in close proximity to you, they're just as guilty as the abuser. I'm sorry you experienced this. Not the idiot. There's no excuse for that. They utterly failed in their first job as parents, keeping you safe. The fact that it is now making them feel bad that you know about it is ridiculously immaterial, and frankly pretty gross. Update. So I know it's only been a day, but I got a bus ticket for later today back down to my place, so I thought I would have one last chat with my mom and dad before I cut them out completely. I said I would just listen to why they decided to do what they did, and they didn't have a good enough reason. They were saying how they didn't know what to do, and dad thought that by acting like his father. My abuser lost his father in a motorcycle crash. He would stop. I then asked them why they failed to protect me as parents. They had no answer and kinda just looked down at the floor. I told them that they are lucky I was so strong and got through my eating disorder and other issues myself, because from now on I would be doing everything myself. I also added that I would be keeping in contact with my younger sister, and if anything like this happens I will be calling the police and getting custody of her, so you better not frick up with your other daughter. I'm keeping an eye on my sister. I told them that this would be the last time they would see me, and I got up and left. Both mom and dad cried a lot and begged for my forgiveness but refused and left. Thanks so much for the messages. You gave me strength to do this and I love you all. Not the idiot. I always found it strange when people couldn't stand up for themselves against poor treatment from their family. When I read the original story, I assumed that would be exactly what their excuse would be if you had talked to them. Something along the lines of hoping your abuser being close would cause some sort of change. Congratulations on standing up for yourself. It's too bad your parents couldn't do it for you. I don't have any kids, but I couldn't imagine letting someone abuse them and inviting said person to be around while it happened. Am I the idiot for refusing to include my mom when I go wedding dress shopping? I, 29, female, am engaged to my fiance, 32, male, and we plan on having our wedding towards the end of this year. We are so excited, and I cannot wait for him to be my husband. Together, we have planned most of the wedding and have organized all of the vendors except for buying my wedding dress. I have started the process of looking for dresses, but most bridal boutiques are fully booked into 2023 to accommodate all of the weddings which were postponed over the past 2 years. I have called every boutique within driving distance and have been put on every waiting list. About a week ago, I received a call from a local boutique telling me that someone had canceled their appointment and that a spot had opened up if I would like to take it. The only catch is that the appointment will be early in the morning, as most boutiques have extended their business hours to accommodate as many people as possible. With current restrictions, the boutique only allows for me to bring one guest, so I phoned my mom, 52, female, to invite her along. This is an event that I would really like to share with her, and she has always told me that she'd like to be there. Unfortunately, as she reminded me, the appointment coincides with her weekly yoga class which she has been attending for 20 years. I explained that the boutique had me on a waiting list and I did not choose the appointment time, but she feels that I did not push them hard enough. I phoned the boutique back, and they said that I could either go back on the waiting list, or I could attend. This was their only available appointment, so I confirmed that I would attend. I phoned my mom back to let her know, and she again declined, saying that I should know the time of the class after 20 years. So, I invited my soon-to-be mother-in-law, 58, female, to my mom's place. This has caused a rift, with my parents saying that I am excluding my mom from a special experience and showing my true colors, while my fiancé and future in-laws feel that I gave my mom first choice and it was her decision to decline. As of right now, my parents have said that they will not attend the wedding. I am honestly at a crossroads. I am so grateful that my mother-in-law can attend and we can share something special, but I would hate for my parents to miss my wedding because they feel so excluded. My mom has told me that she will use this experience as an indicator for how I will behave for the rest of my life, and that she is clearly lower down on the priority list than my future in-laws. She has also said that she feels I vindictively chose the appointment time to purposefully exclude her. Am I the idiot for not trying harder to include my mom in a special mother-daughter moment? Comments before the update. Not the idiot. She couldn't skip her class one time. What a bratty thing to do. You did explain you were on the waiting list and was only able to get the appointment because someone else canceled, right? She chose a yoga class over going with you, which shows you how high of a priority you were. You can shove that in her face if she continues to complain. Imagine causing all this drama over nothing. Not the idiot. She is insisting that she is lower on your priority list than your in-laws, but I would argue that she's showing you that you're lower on her priority list than her yoga class. You did nothing wrong and you should not have to reschedule. It isn't about her. Update. The morning of the appointment, my mother-in-law and I were dropped off at the bridal boutique by my fiancé. To my surprise, my mom had skipped her yoga class and was waiting for us. My mom told me that she is still happy to attend the appointment despite everything that I have put her through, and told my mother-in-law that she was free to leave. My mom also announced that she will be paying for any dress I choose to signify her importance as the mother of the bride. Before I could even open my mouth to respond, my fiancé was telling my mom that she was not welcome at the appointment and that we did not need her money. I stepped in and told my mom that she rejected 2 invitations to attend, and that her own actions had caused all of her stress. I also said that I will be trying on dresses with my mother-in-law because she has acted more like a mother to me than my mom ever has. My mom put up quite a fight, but my fiancé made sure that she left before leaving himself. After a few tears, I had a wonderful time with my mother-in-law. I have since learned that my mother-in-law was raised in an emotionally abusive home, so she is very understanding. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a dress at the boutique, but I no longer need one because my fiancé and I have decided to get married in court with my in-laws as witnesses. My mother-in-law has offered her wedding dress for the occasion. Apparently she wanted to offer it sooner, but ironically did not want to step on my mom's toes. We have been able to recover the deposits from most of our vendors, and told all the guests that we decided on a smaller wedding instead. Everyone has been very understanding, aside from my mom. She insists that she had always intended on going bridal shopping with me and had told me that she had a conflicting schedule because she wanted to surprise me on the day. My mom says that she only became upset when I invited someone else along before confirming that she could make it. My mom is, as far as I am aware, trying to have me kicked out of the family by spreading the story that all of my behavior has been a vindictive plot against her. Thankfully, everyone still seems to be quite happy to include me. The truth is, my mom has always guilt-tripped and emotionally blackmailed me, but it has taken me a long time to recognize that most families don't operate like mine. To be honest, I am tired of it all. For now, I have my wonderful fiancé who has been so supportive, and his family who I love. My parents have been officially told that they are not welcome at the wedding, and I haven't heard much from them since. I don't think that they ever expected me to recognize their behavior and stand up for myself. I would also like to answer some common questions. Where is my dad in all of this? My dad has always unconditionally supported my mom, and will only really step in if he feels that I am disrespecting her. Other than that, he doesn't contribute much. Will I share a photo of the dress? For privacy reasons, I would prefer not to, but it is a very typical 1982 wedding dress with lace and puffy sleeves. We are having it altered so that it is more in line with a small courthouse wedding. At its heart, underneath all of the frills, my mother-in-law had great taste and the dress fits like a glove. My fiancé says that it was meant to be. Are my fiancé and I still going to get married at the end of the year? We are currently looking at available dates in court, and are thinking about August. The wedding was initially only planned for the end of the year because that's what most vendors had available. Not the idiot. I read your original post. She couldn't break away from her yoga after you explained and then told you they weren't coming. Good for you for standing up. That is crazy. A no-brainer. You missed the yoga class. You did the right thing. She had the nerve to say that's how you will be the rest of your life. Good on you for standing up for yourself, not the idiot. Wow, well done. That is satisfying to hear but must have been hard to live. Your mom must have been blindsided when you didn't bend to her will and she had to scramble to turn up after all going. I planned this all along, as her control of you slipped from her grasp. So great that you held strong. Sounds like you're on the right track and with some solid support too. Congrats. Now go live a great life. Should she have brought her mom with her? Let me know in the comments. Am I the idiot for attempting to adopt a child? I'm female 36, a foster carer and have been for nearly 10 years. I've had all kinds of kids, boys, girls, toddlers, and teenagers. I've had a mix of races in my home and I always try my best to make them feel at home as best as I can. Some kids stay longer than others. I usually keep kids here for less than a year, just the way it works out sometimes. I have one little girl in my care right now, a 4Y, girl named P, and mixed race black. Her mom is black, which is the side of the family giving me grief right now. P has been here since Xmas of 2020, and was too young to really understand why she was in foster care. From what I understand, drugs and alcohol the main issue. She has 2 older siblings who live in a group home who are too young to care for her. Recently though, her social worker asked me if I would be open to adoption, which of course I would be. But when word of this got out to her parents, who both agreed to it, her mom's side of the family flipped out and said there was no way they could allow this to happen. From what I understand, their main issue is that I'm white and will never be able to raise a child understanding black culture, which I 100% completely agree with. But they have known that P has been here for over a year, and not once requested a visit or for her to be moved into their care. I'm talking grandparents, aunts, and an uncle. The minute it looks permanent, they have an issue. I take really good care of her, to the best of my ability. I research hairstyles for black kids because she has 4 degrees Celsius hair and needs it looked after. She's enrolled at a local community center that encourages local black kids. We live in London, in sports, and I've actively encouraged her in playing guitar, something she now loves. Her parents have already said they think this is the best move forward. But her mom's family are intent on fighting this every step of the way, which makes me think as a white woman, I might be in the wrong here. There are certain things I will never understand, and I can only try to teach her the best I can. But am I the idiot for this move? P tells the social worker she is happy with me and I would love to keep her with me. Comments before the update. Not the idiot. If her maternal family are so concerned, they could either figure out how to take her in themselves or work with you to be a positive influence in her life. That little girl deserves a stable home. Not the idiot. What matters here is what is best for P. She has a safe, loving home with you and it sounds like no relationship at all with her mom's family. The last thing she needs is to be taken away from what is probably the only home she can remember. Plus you sound like you have been very mindful of keeping her connected to her culture. If they wanted to be involved in her life they could have done that, it just seems like they want to stir up trouble. Update. I took all the comments and concerns seriously and went ahead and agreed to the adoption. Currently our social worker is trying to fast track the case, but there is a backlog and it might be another month or 2. Couple of points to go over. 1. We had a sit down with the family who didn't want me to adopt. Their main concerns were that I would try to raise P as a white child, and not be able to understand that she is a black child with needs different to a white child. However, P came with us for the first part of the meeting, and they all agreed that she seemed happy and even commented on her braids, so that was a positive. 2. Aunt who was going to apply for custody said won't do it anymore as P is happy with me and she can see it's benefiting her, but now bio grandmother is saying she'll do it. Social worker isn't worried about this as there have been a few cases of social work involvement at her home also, and actually shouted at P during the meeting for being too loud. 3. P's bio parents have since separated. Her bio mom signed a document agreeing to adoption, and bio dad can't be found. I think given his history though, it's not going to cause any issues in the court that they can't find him. 4. Officially have the backing of the social work department. the nursery and all her social clubs. She does sport twice a week, football and dance, guitar lessons at the local school, and is asking to go with her friend to a gymnastics club at the end of the week. So she's healthy and active, and everyone is backing me on this. The judge is currently waiting to set a date, and is waiting for background reports, but seems pleased with everything we have done so far. So I'd say I'm 95% sure the adoption will be approved. I understand not everyone agrees with transracial adoption, and your concerns are serious to me, so I will 100% make sure she is surrounded by people who will understand what it's like to be black and living in London. And she now has an aunt at the community center who will check in with her once a month and invite her to a dinner at her home with her family. Not the idiot. So I'm biracial with a white mother, and I can tell you that woman worked hard to figure out how to do my half-sisters, type 4C, and my brothers and my hair, type 3C. She went to the local black beauty college and begged for help and a place to start. She went from knowing nothing to giving us sew-in braids, box braids, and other protective styles. She even would relax our hair, and we would get compliments all the time. I'll always appreciate that she took the time because she wanted us to feel good about ourselves. There's lots of YouTube channels and people willing to help with in-person questions if you go to a salon. One thing I recommend is calling the salon before going in and asking if there's a stylist that does 4C hair. That'll save a lot of your time and energy when she needs a haircut. Do you think Opus will be a better fit for P? Let me know in the comments. Am I the idiot for bringing up my dead daughter in an argument with my wife? My wife and I are both 44. We had a daughter when we were 19, but she passed while in high school. It took us a long time to learn to live with that pain. And my wife's work. There's a very sweet girl named Rosa, 23, from Ecuador. She immigrated 5 years ago after getting married. Her husband worked security for my wife. He was such a thoughtful and hardworking boy. We'd been close to him since he was 13, and he lived with his uncle renting our basement. Unfortunately, he died in an accident last year while Rosa was pregnant. Rosa gave birth to a beautiful baby, but she's been very depressed and isolated, and her only bio family is an aunt. A few days ago, she came to my wife and I telling us she wanted to start school to make a life for herself. She got admitted into a university a city over to start in the summer. The big thing was that she asked us to take in her daughter. Now we love Rosa so much, and while I would take in her daughter, it's not like she's abandoning her. My wife doesn't want to because the idea of giving up a child is unfathomable to her because of our daughter. She started proposing alternate things like Rosa going to a nearby school, taking online courses, doing a trades program for her company, and other stuff. We wound up arguing about it because Rosa really needs this. Yes, it may take her out of our lives for a while, but if we tie her down to a life that's hurting her, that could damage her. And the fact that she's coming to us shows how much she trusts us. I tried to frame this issue to my wife in terms of what if our daughter was alive and going through this. My wife got very angry with me for doing that and said our daughter wasn't a tool that I could just use. On one hand, I know she's hurt, but on the other, I didn't see what else I could say to try and make her understand. Comments before the update. You're the idiot. And big time. 1. This conversation has literally nothing to do with your daughter, nothing at all. And bringing up your daughter was just a form of trying to guilt and manipulate your wife into doing what you want. 2. She said no, this means no. You cannot force someone into a caregiver role that they do not want. This is not an easy decision to make. If you do bring this child in, you will be starting all over. 3. You didn't take time to think about what happens when mom gets her life together and wants her child back. Do you really think it's fair to ask your wife to have to go through another loss after it took so long to learn to live again? You're the idiot. Your wife doesn't want to take care of Rosa's child. She raised her kid. She doesn't want a replacement. She's trying to find solutions for Rosa to keep her baby because she knows what it's like to use a child. You're not even trying to understand why she says no. Update. So, you all were right, and I apologized to my wife about bringing up our daughter in the argument, and we had a talk. We called over Rosa and told her we couldn't take in her baby. She started crying and my wife had to console her. Rosa admitted that being an orphan and seeing how we treated her over the years made her see us as parents, and she wanted that for her baby cause she couldn't give it without her husband. We made Rosa and her baby stay over that night cause we got scared for her. We had another private talk and we admitted we didn't want Rosa to leave our lives, and we were scared of what could happen to her all alone with the baby. So, we came up with a plan, and in the morning we presented it to Rosa. We said we'd pay for whatever babysitting, daycare, or whatever for the baby where she went, and even her tuition. And then we offered an adult adoption to Rosa because my wife and I agreed that over the years we have come to see her like our child, and the idea of her leaving was breaking our hearts. The way her eyes lit up and how she hugged us both made all of us cry. Even the baby started crying because of the noise. She FaceTimed her aunt that night and told her the news, and boy was that woman happy. She literally started singing our praises in Kichwa till she started crying. I also met and told her husband's uncle at a bar, and he gave me a bear hug telling me he was so happy that we could officially be brothers. When he saw my wife, he yelled out "My Hermana" in a very flamboyant way and ran to hug her. We've told my wife's family too, and they're all happy. from my family. Only my grandmother knows and she's happy for us. I'm posting this because we've filled all the forms and hopefully soon Rosa will legally be our daughter. She'll be moving in with us too, or at least until she heads to university. So I guess the way it wound up is we now have a daughter and a granddaughter. Not the idiot. So glad to see a happy update. This worked out as it was supposed to. You learned a lesson along the way, and it had to be one of the hearts. No idiots here. I am literally crying tears of happiness. May you and your lovely wife and new daughter and granddaughter have the most wonderful lives ever.